we can take this one.
Right, so you're all of you actually great visionaries in what you do. You're all going beyond mapping the world as we know it and mapping it in different ways. And we'll start with Cal and Brandon, because you were indicating that there was a certain challenge to that last sequence which you just showed us. And if you can describe what the challenge was for that. You were very upfront about the other challenges you faced.
Right.
But
that was more of a creative challenge. But it, you know, from the idea of how do you make this music from all over the world fit together? Nobody was playing the same song, but we sort of did a trick to make it seem that way. And so, you know, that sort of, it's one of the few scenes in the world, in the film too, where we don't really show the origin of everything. We sort of wanted the boundaries to go away. So it was sort of just this unifying feeling. It's not really where is this, but, you know, everybody's working together to make this music. And so what we did is, there's a couple techniques, lots of organization, beats per minute, and the key by which people were playing in. Some people don't play in a key depending on the instrument they're playing, but that was organized by a composer over a period of about a month, just going through tons and tons of musical footage. But once he had that library built, that archive of knowing this is this beat per minute and this is this key, he was able to slightly nudge things a little bit to make them fit perfectly in post-production. And then he went to town and wrote a track in a few days. But a lot of lead up to that, and then from there, and editorial, it was our job to go, well, where did that sound come from, and have to go back and find the clip name that he had changed 3 times, and then figure out exactly, and resync, basically, all of the original video footage. And then it came together, it became one song, which is, I guess, very relevant to this idea of mapping, in the sense that, you know, we were deconstructing the map instead of constructing it at that point.
and how did you make those choices?
The choices of what was musically used. Well, we sat together a bit in the organizational process. We wanted a certain amount of diversity, and I think we all had our favorites as well, just musically. So it was certainly a collaboration, but and then some of the editorial team and threw things on top, and it became like this back and forth for a while. And in addition, I should say that we did this in other parts of the film. We did a part of the film where we were using organic sounds within the score, but we also, another composer, a DJ, did the end track in a music video, and he did it all by, we burned everything on DVDs, and then he, in real time, beat matched all of the music to basically fit together.
So Mahalo and Hajime, what are the biggest challenges which you faced, and I will hand, you've got a mic, thank you. What are the biggest challenges you face in doing your project? Because you're trying to map the ecosystems of the world and then get people interacting and communicating, participating. What has been your biggest challenge?
Shall I? Yeah, it sounds maybe kind of strange, but we try to. It's a technological quality of the globe, because we try to have the best interactive globe, which can move the people's emotions. So, and then the quality of technology can show the beauty, we believe. So then actually, the data thing or visualization, and then we can do, renew, repeat it. But the object itself is, it's a big project, and then we, even the structure or designing or software designing, and then also all the adjustment of the colors, that kind of part was the big challenge, I think. And then also, maybe it's kind of too dramatic, but the opening, that we planned, 1 week before the opening, the March 11 happened. So, and then you know, the ceiling of the museum fall, and then we closed the museum for 3 months. And then, you know, one of, you know, poor geocosmos, you know, some of the dust or from the ceiling, you know, fall into the globe. And then, like, we kind of, everybody, you know, try, you know, to hold kind of, how to say, the happened, you know, to our country. So then it was, yeah, kind of, in the technology things.
And a natural challenge as well.
Yeah, natural, yes.
Not just technological.
Yeah, and I think the visualization, that part is not challenging. Of course, it's challenging, but it's more fun, you know, that we can share, you know, then, you know, like as your music. It's a challenge, but also, yeah, it's wonderful creation, yeah.
Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yes. About Geocosmos project, we are going to show more in detail how to construct the Geocosmos and tomorrow. But to explain briefly, as Mahoro introduced that it's more than 10 million pixels, but not only by how far we can make a higher resolution or faster frame rate per second, we have some challenges of how to kind of assemble square panels on a sphere. There's always a gap. It's very similar to how to convert a sphere by using triangle to make a rectangular map. So this time, we are very much into how to assemble these square panels on a sphere. It was so difficult, but we discovered some good idea to kind of fulfill the square panels on a sphere with the minimum gap. So that was very exciting thing that it's not about higher resolution, but sometimes kind of primitive geometrical idea can solve the problem.
So it was a primitive geometrical idea which solved the problem, so
yes.
And moved you forward.
Yes.
So Lisa, when you have a challenge, what is your greatest challenge? Because you're dealing with something which is now is becoming more knowable, but as you said, there are more things to know. It's constantly forward-looking, and a lot of people think of it as science fiction. What is your chiefest challenge now it's becoming science fact?
So what we're having is we're standing on this verge of understanding these planets, but we are just getting the first data. So all these beautiful artists' imagines or animations that I could show, we don't know that yet. What we do have is a very, very faint data signal in a lot of noise of stars that are around, of things that are in the background. And so getting that data out and being very, very critical, as scientists always have to be about their own work, to be sure that you actually do everything in your power to not over-interpret your data, and to understand really the underlying physics of such a planet. A lot of times when we look at the Earth, we see this beautiful resolution, Google Images, you just go to Google Maps, you zoom in, you see a 1 meter thing. What we have is the whole globe, whether it's Jupiter, whether it's another Earth, smeared out into this 1 pixel. And now we're getting to the point where we're trying to understand that, characterize that, and from that deduce how we fit into this whole puzzle. So it's a very hard challenge to get the data and then interpret it without over-interpreting and learning from it, without projecting what you want there to be. So this is one of the things where scientists have to basically take all their beliefs, leave it at the door. A lot of times I get the question, do you believe that there's life out there? I leave whatever I believe at the door, go in there to critically analyze the data to really be able to address that question.
But interpretation can only be done with your own mindset and knowledge itself. It's very limited, and you're making choices when you make that interpretation. So I wondered how far what you leave out is just as important as the data you get.
So what we're doing to try to address that is actually to do a parameter space exploration. That's in the first steps of science what you always do. You say, without me knowing anything better, Let's see what could fit. And that's always a huge parameter space. And then you have the data that can constrain that, says, okay, this thing is not an Earth. It's way too big and it's very fluffy. And so you go step by step, quantifying the assumptions you make and looking back and see what alternatives there are, and always bring that back in to be sure that you're not throwing something out because you believe or you think that that is a much more logical interpretation. And sometimes, especially for Kepler 22b, you saw this thing, it was in the habitable zone, and we worked on it, and in the beginning, it was smaller. And anything below 2 Earth radii is very likely to be a rock. And it was in this habitable zone. And everybody was extremely excited. But you have the error bars. And unfortunately, the error bars didn't do this, but the planet actually went up, 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 up in radius to the upper part of the error bars, and thus became not a rock. So scrutiny and trying to get the data out and test, test, test again to figure out if what you're getting out is actually, in a way, the truth as good as you can know it.
So we've talked, I mean, we're all here talking about the way we all connect together, and I was saying about what we leave out is very important. So it's a good time to have 1 or 2 questions from the audience, from you who've listened and observed and may have questions which you would like to ask to our panelists. So if you want to hold up your hand and a mic will come towards you if you've got any questions. If not, we're very happy to continue.
I actually have a question for you, if that's all right. So the first thing, I know that when you guys started to do the project and everything, that's amazing. But this first time when you had this idea, how long did it take you to think, hey, I can do this? You know, I will get all of this together. It's like a huge project, a huge undertaking. What was the initial?
I think ideas are bizarre things, especially something like this, which if you think on the outset, it's probably a paragraph, you know, to explain it. So it wasn't something that evolved that much. It was very quick. It was very much a moment of inspiration. You know, I think when you're working in the creative field, you have moments of inspiration every couple days that seem that profound. But this one sort of stayed around. And so it's sort of like, I told like 3 people initially, you know, just like friends. And, but then it stuck around for a couple months. I was like, no, I have to do this. And so there was that moment where it was like, but I think the visualization of the idea of like, okay, we're going to build a community, it's going to be online, we're going to, you know, that was a 15-minute idea, but it really was sort of like coming up to jump off that cliff to go, yeah, this was a good 15-minute idea. And then if I really am serious about this, it's a commitment for a couple of years, maybe more. But I'm okay with that. And so that's the process there.
And Mahalo, how long was it for you?
Oh, because the geocosmos, originally geocosmos is not, you know, my idea, but the using organic LED was, you know, my hope. So, but it's not a maybe good question, maybe. Yeah, his idea, you know, realizing. Yeah, you know, I know the beautiful story. So.
Yes, the idea about the idea of this world map things. First, I try to make a perspective drawing which doesn't have distortion. But, well, the perspective and photograph has a distortion, but still we have been using that technology for more than 500 years. So when I was a student, I tried to kind of invent the new perspective drawing. Then I found out if there is a kind of strange camera which has a film shaping a hemisphere on both sides, then shoot entire whole of vision, then you get the spherical picture. Then I discover if I use the most advanced world map, which is Dymaxion map, to unfold it, I can make a kind of perspective drawing with much less distortion. But then the shape of the map is kind of complicated, and I try to get rid of this complicated shape to be fitted in rectangle. But then it was so difficult. But on one day, that was in the Netherlands, then my mother sent always the kind of sweet and all necessary stuff from Japan. And one of that was a candy wrapped by tetrahedral packages. Then I was so kind of bored to think about how to make the map more correctly. Then I started to eat a lot. Then when I break up, I figure out, oh, this shape is a rectangle. I can use this. But that was in 1999 in November, 17th of November in the morning. So it was very kind of a quick moment to find out the idea. But then it took more than 15 years to kind of sum up the idea. So it was like it took a long time to kind of compensate for the idea to make a kind of real achieved idea. So that was a big challenge. Yeah.
I think, you know, good ideas take friends, and they take mothers sending candy. And so, I mean, there's such a brain wealth here right now in Linz, and all of the ideas that are all being shared, they're all a product of support. Very few of these ideas, I'm sure, come together in a vacuum. So I think that, you know, having a festival like this and getting together to meet people that are also chasing their dreams is inspiration, but there's also a whole army of people I know that are all behind us. So.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to end, and for people to make connections together. It's just to say tomorrow's symposium is in the Lentos Museum. It's not here at the Bruckner House. It's at the Lentos Museum, which is the glass museum directly opposite Ars Electronica. And I'd like to thank all our speakers for that very inspirational talk from basically 5 great visionaries. So thank you.